All right, State, well, you continue to test that. Good morning, everybody. We're back on the record in State versus Ashley Benefield, 2020 CF 3014. Present is Ms. O'Donnell, Ms. Field. Present is Mr. Taylor and Ms. Benefield. A couple of matters before we get started. Yesterday, I had brought up that an anonymous reporter had come up to the 9th floor and spoken with the deputy who's there at the desk with some sort of information. This morning, 5 minutes ago, I was provided a letter from a law firm in West Palm Beach dated yesterday. It says that it was sent to the state and the defense. Did you each get a copy, State?
Yes.
I did, and I responded late last evening, Your Honor, and a copy of Your Honor's chambers as well as Suzanne.
Yes.
Oh, I don't have those responses.
He just said, thank you for sending it. I said I didn't get an attachment and realized I was looking at the wrong email.
I thanked them. I told them it was worthy of calling it to the court's attention and that I was confident Your Honor would probably conduct a hearing as a result.
And that's what I'm doing. Do you want to be heard on this, State?
No.
Defense? Do you want to be heard on this?
Yes, I'd like the court to question the jurors individually. I don't know what the lawyer said, whether or not the potential juror heard it. I have every confidence the court can do it elegantly and first find out which juror, if any, was exposed to that, and then find out if they heard anything that had any impact at all on their perception of the case, and that was extrajudicial in the sense that it was a reference to something that had not been introduced in the court.
All jurors or just male jurors?
Judge, I would suggest respectfully all the jurors, and I think...
Even though the letter says it was a male juror?
Yes, because that's what this anonymous source said, but I think to be safe, to the extent there was some jurors in this location, there's limited places to go for lunch around there, Judge, so I potential that there could have been other jurors there as well, and rather than run the risk of not knowing, I think a simple inquiry by Your Honor would put that to rest.
State?
And Judge, I would just recommend that maybe we ask the group these general questions, and if anybody says that they've heard anything or seen any news or heard you talking, then we can talk to them individually, because these people may not have had any information. And we spend time doing individual on that.
The concern with that is, in my experience, respectfully, any juror that was exposed to that may be very anxious about acknowledging it.
All right, thank you. I'll bring them in individually to ask about that. Of course, we've already discussed Dr. Quintel when we came back from a recess. He was approached by a reporter in the hallway while he was in the middle of testifying, but on a recess, asked if he could be, the reporter asked if he could ask questions of Dr. Quintel. Dr. Quintel said no, and the reporter gave him a card. That's my understanding from Dr. Quintel.
Yes, sir.
Anybody
want to be heard on that?
Did not take it.
Do you want to be heard on that?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that Dr.
All right. Do you want to be heard on it, though?
No.
No.
After hours yesterday, I was contacted by Judicial Security and notified that a witness who testified and had not been released from subpoena, and again, this is second or third hand, it's my understanding both parties have been made aware of this, was being interviewed by a news channel reporter in the hallway outside of the courtroom. When deputies were locking up, someone told them that this was going on. I don't think the deputies actually saw it, but it was reported to them.
And Judge, I spoke to the witness, and there was a discussion with the media, but nothing was talked about what was going on in the trial or testimony or anything like that. And I've spoken with the witness and asked them not to do that anymore before the trial's over.
This is the first I've heard of that, Your Honor. I want to know who the witness was.
The reason I didn't speak in specifics is this is all hearsay within hearsay within hearsay.
I understand.
It was reported that it was Eva Benefield gave an interview to a reporter from News Channel 8.
Give me a moment, Your Honor, please. I believe she's under state subpoena.
Yes.
And did the state request that she remain available under the subpoena?
Yes.
Okay. I think perhaps a hearing may be ordered.
All right.
And Judge, I don't, the state would not be opposed to a hearing. I can represent that this particular witness did not speak about anything that was prohibited by the rule of sequestration. No one said to this witness, you're not allowed to talk to anybody about the case, just your testimony and the witnesses in this trial going on right now. So.
All right. Go ahead.
So, not to compound it, but to the extent we're doing housekeeping things now, we also have an issue, Your Honor, with an impeachment witness to Stephanie Murphy, specifically Faith Brown, who is representing Ms. Benefield during the same proceedings. She was not on our witness list, but given the testimony of Ms. Murphy, we are going to have her outside this afternoon, and the board may want to conduct a Richardson hearing as to that. So just for planning purposes.
All right, you understand that Faith Brown may be called as a witness?
Yes.
All right. I wasn't going to get too involved in the Richardson hearing yet. It needs to be done, obviously, and I've got a note for that. All right, so on the Eva Benefield potential interview with someone at News Channel 8, you're not asking for any relief.
No.
I don't know what relief you're going to ask for, but if you're asking for some relief, I'll let you get started.
Well, the relief I would ask for initially is that she obviously be barred from being called as a rebuttal witness potentially. Secondarily, to the extent the court admonished her about doing exactly that, which she did, I've observed thus far the court's general admonishment that it gives to witnesses. I'm assuming Ms. Benefield received it as well. Was she in the courtroom, by the way? Ms. Benefield?
Here she is, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to have you step back.
All right, ma'am, if you please remove yourself from the courtroom.
This is a young girl who lost a father. I'm not looking to hurt her, but given her disregard of the court's admonition, I think precluding her from being called as a rebuttal witness at a minimum would be appropriate. Whether or not the court feels any further sanctions are appropriate as a result of her disregard of the court's warning, I defer to you on it.
Did you want to be heard at all?
Judge, I would just dispute that she violated exactly the court's order. And if she does testify, she will testify consistently with what she has already testified to in the deposition. So counsel will know if that changes, but we know what she's going to say because she said things already in the deposition. So I don't think any potential harm has come from it.
Rebuttal? All right. Whenever we talk about having a hearing, my assumption at the beginning of that was that it was going to be evidentiary and people were going to call witnesses and present evidence. Here's what the court knows. Someone told a court deputy that they observed Eva Benefield giving an interview to News Channel 8 reporter in the hallway outside of courtroom A after court had concluded for the day. At this point, I have no facts or evidence before me. I've got hearsay within hearsay as to something that happened.
Judge.
Yeah, so I don't.
I'll call it.
I gave you that opportunity. That's what I'm saying is that if everybody wanted a hearing, then
All right, well, I took it for granted that the court would,
I'm not going to assume this is true.
yeah. So, court likes, I'll be happy to call him and we'll have a brief hearing.
It's up to you. All right, can you call Ms. Benefield back in? State, just looking at the list, you have 3 witnesses left?
Yes.
All right. Do we expect to finish today with the state's case? Come on in, man.
No, I think we're going to
Robert, do we know which deputy reported the matter?
No.
Or any of the deputies in the courtroom that saw the conversation late yesterday afternoon? Do we know which deputy it was?
As I said, it was reported to me that some unidentified person told the deputy. So,
Just one moment.
are you the one that they told?
Yeah.
Okay, right here. Mr. Taylor.
Got it.
Apparently it was reported to Deputy Racky.
Okay. I have a moment with the deputy.
Of course, State, you want to be present?
Step into our office.
Ms. Benefield, I'll remind you that you are under oath. You can just get a little bit closer to that microphone and just answer the questions in a loud, clear voice.
Good morning, Ms. Benefield.
Good morning.
You appeared yesterday and testified before Judge White in this case, did you not?
I appeared on Tuesday and testified.
Tuesday. Time flies. At the end of your testimony, do you recall Judge White instructing you about having contact with anyone because you were to remain under subpoena? Do you recall that?
I recall.
Okay. And you were here today because the state requested that you remain as a potential rebuttal witness.
Correct.
Now, what did you think Judge White's directions to you meant?
Well, I was told I wasn't allowed to speak on any of the witnesses in my testimony while in the courtroom.
So, I'm sorry, did you finish?
I'm finished.
Did you realize that when you decided to have a conversation with the reporter?
Yes, sir.
All right. Tell us, if you would. I'm just trying to get an explanation. Tell us, if you would, what you were thinking that
Objection.
Overruled.
As for what she said.
what you were thinking that you felt allowed you to do exactly that which Judge White cautioned you not to.
I was caught off guard in the hallway when I was under extreme emotional distress after being here, hearing different testimonies about my father's murder. And when I spoke to the reporter, I made sure not to talk about any of the testimonies or anything that happened in the courtroom or my testimony.
What did you discuss with the reporter?
Just how I felt about the situation and who my dad's character was as I saw him.
When you say about the situation, you mean about the case, the trial?
Not about the trial.
What situation were you referring to?
My emotional state.
You post on social media,
I do.
TikTok,
Yes.
any others?
No.
Following your testimony here last Tuesday, did you make any posts?
I did.
Tell us, how many?
3.
3. And tell us one at a time. Were all 3 of them on Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening?
1 was on Tuesday.
And when were the other 2?
Yesterday.
Okay. And tell us, as to the first post, what was it about?
I said that I testified.
Okay. And did you have anything to say about your testifying?
I talked about it being on live television,
What else?
that somebody back home was watching.
I assume you have copies on your phone?
I do.
You have your phone with you here today?
I do not. Not on me.
Where is it?
It's over in the benches.
In the bushes?
In the benches.
In the benches here in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
With the court's permission, may she retrieve it so we can see exactly what it was that she posted?
Judge, I'm going to object if he knows clearly they have the post. So
Well, I don't know.
it's an invasion of her privacy to dig into his phone.
Not if it's on social media, but we started off talking about just speaking with some reporter, and now we're talking about a social media post. If you've seen it, and if she's violating the rules, let's just get it out.
Okay. I'm trying to find that out.
So now it's a fishing expedition. If you know a violation, let's talk about it. If not, let's just get moving. We got jury waiting.
I understand that, Judge. How do I know? Like, she's told us she posted 3 things. How do I know what it's about? What if one of them involved discussions that were inappropriate? How am I to know that? I've been a little preoccupied, and I don't do social media.
Sir, if you have specific evidence, let's talk about it. If not, you have a team. You've got 3 people in court right behind you. I don't know. Maybe they can look it up. But let's focus on what we know about, as opposed to digging into speculation.
I have no further questions.
No questions.
Ms. Benefield, when you had this conversation with the reporter in the hallway, were there any other witnesses around?
Yes. I'm sorry. Let me re-answer that question. None that testified. I think.
Okay, so you're saying there were people standing around,
There were people
but
around.
none of the witnesses in this case?
No, sir. Not that I remember.
Did you talk specifically about the questions that were asked of you or the testimony you've given?
No, sir.
All right. Do you have any follow-up questions to my questions?
No, sir.
Do you have any follow-up questions to my questions? All right, Ms. Benefield, you can step back out. Did you want to call any other witnesses?
No, sir.
State?
No.
All right. All right, Ms. Benefield's out the courtroom. Go ahead, sir. Do you have any argument? Do you want to seek any relief? Do you want to argue in support of any relief?
Yeah, I think she violated the court's admonition that the court routinely gives to the witnesses, and as a result, again, I have no personal interest in seeing the young woman suffer, but I do think violation of the court's admonition is sufficient to strike her as a potential rebuttal witness.
Judge, I think you asked her the relevant questions. I think the questions that you asked her are the admonitions that you gave her as a witness, and she did not virtually those.
Final thoughts? I'm certainly distressed that, let me say first, the media policy for the 12th Circuit prohibits the media from conducting interviews inside of the courthouse. It is my understanding that our media and public relations person met this morning, or was going to meet this morning with the media to go over the administrative order again, because certainly I think the media is and should be aware of that administrative order and comply with it. The specific incident that we're talking about after hours yesterday, the facts that are in front of me are not that Ms. Benefield spoke about her testimony or the questions asked. But I also have not heard from the reporter, and I have not seen any tape or footage. At this point, I'm going to reserve on the request, and I'll make a decision. If and when she's called again, I'll make a decision at that point. You just have to remind me if we get there.
I'm satisfied, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, next. Debbie, if you just start, I don't care about the order, just start bringing in the jurors one at a time, please.
Judges, Ms. Bennett, allow back and forth.
Yes. Yes, but I'm going to give her an admonition.
Okay.
Just, if you tell him to just hold up for a second, she can come back in. At this point, I'm reserving on whether she can be recalled or not, but I think an admonition at this point is appropriate. Yes, Ms. Benefield can come in.
This court will allow her to sit in for the testimony knowing that she may be recalled and will have been invoked.
Yes, under Marcy's. Sorry. No, hold on. All right, Ms. Benefield, you can stop right there. Ma'am, the court has ruled at this point that I'm reserving ruling on whether you're going to be allowed to be recalled as a witness or not in this case. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I'll make that ruling down the road. But I want to admonish you about the instructions that I've given and the importance of those. They matter and they need to be followed. Do you understand? All right, ma'am, you can retake your seat. All right. No. Good morning, sir. You can just grab this front chair, it's just fine. And can you remind me, please, what juror number you were?
33.
33, all right. Juror 33, the reason I'm going to bring the jurors out individually is that this morning, the court was provided a letter from a law firm representing a reporter who indicated that during the lunch break yesterday, the news reporter walked to a restaurant near the courthouse for lunch. Inside, there was a large screen television playing coverage and commentary of the trial. Additionally, 2 individuals in the restaurant were discussing a witness's testimony. The conversation occurred within earshot of a man who the news reporter recognized to be a juror in the case. So I'm bringing you out to find out, did that happen to you? Have you received any information outside of these 4 walls?
No, I didn't go to a restaurant. I was in a car and here in this building.
All right. State, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Defense?
No, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Good morning, ma'am. Just grab that first chair. And could you please remind me which juror number you were?
15.
15. All right, ma'am. The reason I bring about jurors individually is that this morning I was provided a letter from a law firm in West Palm Beach that claims to represent a news reporter. And the news reporter anonymously has stated that during the lunch break yesterday, the reporter walked to a restaurant near the courthouse for lunch. Inside, there was a large screen television playing coverage and commentary of the trial. Additionally, 2 individuals in the restaurant were discussing a witness's testimony. The conversation occurred within earshot of a man who the news reporter recognized to be a juror in the case. So I'm bringing everybody out to talk about, have you seen any news coverage? Have you heard people discussing the case? Received anything outside of this room?
No, sir, I go home at lunch.
State, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Defense?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning. Just have a seat right there. And could you do me a favor and remind me of your juror number?
20.
Ma'am, the reason I'm calling out the jurors individually is because this morning I received an email, a letter from a law firm in West Palm Beach who claims to represent a reporter. And the reporter has anonymously stated that during the lunch break yesterday, the news reporter walked to a restaurant near the courthouse for lunch. Inside, there was a large screen television playing coverage and commentary of the trial. Additionally, 2 individuals in the restaurant were discussing a witness's testimony. The conversation occurred within earshot of a man who the news reporter recognized to be a juror in the case. So I'm asking everybody, are you familiar with that? Has that happened to you? Have you received any information outside of these 4 walls?
No, I have not.
State, any questions? Defense?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, good morning. Good morning. Have a seat right there. That's fine. Could you remind me of your juror number?
Original 42.
42. Thank you. All right, ma'am. The reason I'm calling out the jurors individually is because this morning I was given a letter from a law firm in West Palm Beach who claims to represent an anonymous reporter. And the letter says, during the lunch break yesterday, the news reporter walked to a restaurant near the courthouse for lunch. Inside, there was a large screen television playing coverage and commentary of the trial. Additionally, 2 individuals in the restaurant were discussing a witness's testimony. The conversation occurred within earshot of a man who the news reporter recognized to be a juror in the case. So the reason I bring everybody out is just to say, are you familiar with this? Have you heard of this? Have you been approached by anybody? Have you have watched anything on TV? Anything at all?
No, Judge. Yesterday, a couple of us chose to just not go to the restaurant area, and simply because we saw some people out and about, and we just figured it would be best to just stay clear of all of that. And no, I have not watched or viewed anything on media.
Thank you. State?
No question, Judge.
Defense? None. Thank you, ma'am. Good morning. Just have a seat right there. That'll be just fine. And ma'am, could you remind me of your juror number from Monday?
35.
All right, thank you very much. Ma'am, the reason I'm calling the jurors out individually is because this morning I was provided a letter from a law firm in West Palm Beach. And they claim to represent an anonymous reporter. And here's what the letter says, essentially. During the lunch break yesterday, the news reporter walked to a restaurant near the courthouse for lunch. Inside, there was a large screen television playing coverage and commentary of the trial. Additionally, 2 individuals in the restaurant were discussing a witness's testimony. The conversation occurred within earshot of a man who the news reporter recognized to be a juror in the case. So I'm bringing everybody out to say, are you familiar with this? Did you see any of this? Have you done anything to look at or hear anything outside of this courtroom?
I have not.
All right. State?
No questions.
No question. All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right, ma'am. Have a seat. And could you please remind me of your juror number?
Just from the day when I was here on Monday?
Yes.
Number 21, I believe.
All right, thank you so much. All right, ma'am, the reason I'm talking to each of the jurors individually is because I received a letter this morning from a law firm in West Palm Beach, and they claim to represent an anonymous reporter. And what the letter says is during the lunch break yesterday, the news reporter walked to a restaurant near the courthouse for lunch. Inside, there was a large screen television playing coverage and commentary of the trial. Additionally, 2 individuals in the restaurant were discussing a witness's testimony. The conversation occurred within earshot of a man who the news reporter recognized to be a juror in the case. So I'm bringing everybody out to say, are you familiar with that? Do you know anything about it? Or have you looked at anything outside of these 4 walls during this trial?
No, I'm not aware. The only situation I do know, one of the jurors, Ted, I believe mentioned he was out to lunch, and he mentioned that he got up and left the restaurant. But that's all he mentioned. He said he felt uncomfortable and left.
Thank you, ma'am. State. Oh, hold on.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. They just like in trial, they get a chance to ask their questions too.
Yes. No
State.
questions, Judge.
No question.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Could you please remind me of your juror number?
My original one or here?
Originally.
29.
All right, thank you. Ma'am, the reason I'm bringing everybody in individually from the jury is because this morning I received a letter from a law firm in West Palm Beach, and they claim to represent an anonymous reporter. And here's what the letter says. During lunch yesterday, the news reporter walked to a restaurant near the courthouse for lunch. Inside, there was a large screen television playing coverage and commentary of the trial. Additionally, 2 individuals in the restaurant were discussing a witness's testimony. The conversation occurred within earshot of a man who the news reporter recognized to be a juror in the case. So the reason I bring everybody out is to say, do you know anything about this? Have you heard anything about this? And also, have you viewed or seen anything outside of this courtroom?
No, I haven't. And I brought my lunch yesterday and ate downstairs.
State?
No questions.
No question.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right. Hello, sir. Can you please remind me of your juror number? It's for Monday.
43.
Thank you, sir. The reason I'm bringing all the jurors out individually is because I received a letter this morning from a law firm in West Palm Beach, and they claim to represent an anonymous reporter. And here's what the letter essentially says. During the lunch break yesterday, the news reporter walked to a restaurant near the courthouse for lunch. Inside, there was a large screen television playing coverage and commentary of the trial. Additionally, 2 individuals in the restaurant were discussing a witness's testimony. The conversation occurred within earshot of a man who the news reporter recognized to be a juror in the case. So I'm calling everybody out individually to say, do you know anything about this? Are you aware of this situation? And also, have you been following the court's admonitions? Have you been influenced? Have you seen anything outside of these 4 walls?
Yes, Your Honor, that was me at the restaurant. I was getting my lunch to go, and I was keeping everything out of my view and wasn't looking at anything on the news. And I left immediately because I felt uncomfortable, and I haven't gone back to the restaurant. That's what I did. I ate my lunch in the park right in front of the courthouse.
All right, sir. So when you said you weren't paying attention, was that to the television?
That's correct. I was not in view of the television at all, and I asked the business owner to pack my lunch and go so I could leave.
And did you overhear 2 individuals in that restaurant discussing a witness's testimony?
I did not.
State.
No questions.
No question.
Thank you, sir. All right. Hello, ma'am. Can you please remind me of your juror number from Monday?
38.
38, thank you.
What was the number, Doug?
38.
Thank you.
Ma'am, here's why I'm calling everybody out individually. This morning I received a letter from a law firm in West Palm Beach, and I want to talk to everybody individually. And they claim to represent an anonymous reporter. And the letter says, essentially, during the lunch break yesterday, the news reporter walked to a restaurant near the courthouse for lunch. Inside, there was a large screen television playing coverage and commentary of the trial. Additionally, 2 individuals in the restaurant were discussing a witness's testimony. The conversation occurred within earshot of a man who the news reporter recognized to be a juror in the case. So the reason I'm calling everybody out individually is just to say, do you know anything about this? Have you heard anything about this? And have you seen any news or anything outside of these 4 walls about this case? State? No?
No question.
Defense?
No question.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, the jury's out. State, do you want to be heard on this issue? Defense?
No.
All right, the letter that I received from the law firm is going to be filed in the court file. Confirming his story. Okay. That he requested it? Yes, sir. Okay. The deputy has informed me that somebody in the audience was at the same restaurant, and again, this is hearsay within hearsay, would confirm that the juror asked for the television to be turned off?
Yes, sir.
Does anybody want me to find out who that is and have them brought forward? State?
Give me just a moment. No, you're right.
All right. So is there anything else we need to take up before we get started with today's case?
Not from the state. No.
Not from the defense.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and bring the jury in. Or y'all can have a seat. Welcome back, everybody, as a group again. Just need to confirm that, I kind of talked about this individually just a moment ago, but that no one has talked amongst yourselves about the case or began your deliberations. No one's talked with anybody outside of the jury about this case, and no one has done any research on the people, places, things, or legal topics we've heard anything about. All right, everybody says no. When we left off yesterday, the state was still presenting its case. State, call your next witness.
State called Sergeant Brian Hewitt.
You saw this swear or affirm the testimony about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Hello, sir. My name is Judge Ryan, presiding over the case. As the deputy said, just make yourself comfortable in that chair, get about 12 to 15 inches from the microphone. It does adjust up, down, left, right. There you go. And if you just speak in a loud, clear voice right into it, it should be just fine. If we hear you breathing, you're too close. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name and spell your first and last name.
Brian Keelis, Brianquiles.
Where do you work?
Manatee County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you worked there?
About 19 and a half years.
What is your current position with them?
And the supervisor of the Technical Services Unit.
Okay. And you're, I don't know if I said this, you're a sergeant?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the Technical Services Unit?
It's a unit that gets involved in the technical aspects of criminal investigations. One of the responsibilities is downloading data from cell phones and analyzing that data.
Okay. And prior to your current position, what positions did you have at the Sheriff's Office?
Several. I started on the road, moved over to a COPS unit, eventually moved over to the Special Investigations Division as an undercover detective for a couple of years. After that, there was a position involved in, again, technical aspects of investigations. It just wasn't called the Technical Services Unit at the time. And that's until I did that position for a number of years until I was promoted, and eventually the Technical Services Unit started, and that's when I started supervising that unit.
And what training and education do you have to do your current position?
I've had probably over around 800 hours of various technical training, some related to cell phones, some related to technical surveillance, but roughly 800 hours of total training.
Okay. And I want to talk about specifically cell phones and how you deal with those. So how much training would you say you've had in cell phones and analyzing cell phones?
It's probably a third of that 800, so around 250, 260, something like that.
Okay. When you do what I call a forensic examination of a phone, what do you do? Just briefly.
It's really a case-by-case basis. There's each phone is somewhat of a research project. There's so many variables, but ultimately that phone will get plugged into a forensic workstation. Software will be used to be able to download or extract that data from that cell phone, and that same forensic workstation will use software to be able to decode or parse that data to be able to review it.
When you download, I call it dump, a cell phone, when you dump the information from a cell phone, is it voluminous?
Yeah, it can be. Yes, it's quite a bit.
Okay. And is it easy to interpret without help?
No, you definitely need a certain expertise to be able to look at it. You need software to make it a little bit more of a convenience to be able to look at it, but definitely need some assistance to be able to do it.
And do you have programs, software that helps you with that?
Yes.
What are the names of the ones you use?
Our main state program is Cellbrite. It helps us extract the data. If it needs to bypass encryption and bypass locks, it'll help us do that as well. There's other programs that we use, Grayshift, excuse me, as well, to be able to unlock the data and extract it. We have toolkits that I like to refer to of data or of software to be able to use.
Okay. And give me a general idea of how many phones you've done this with.
Me personally, hundreds. I want to say the unit as a whole has steadily done 200 to 300, leading up to about 2002, and that has increased probably closer to about 500 devices for this year alone, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So the unit 500 devices for this year.
Yes.
And when you use software like Cellbrite or
Grayshift.
Does it allow you to put whatever data you want, for instance, pick out what you want, and put it in an easily readable form?
You can filter the reports that the software displays, and if you only want it to include messages, you can create a report with just those messages, sure.
So, for instance, on just your average cell phone, if you did a cell phone dump, you would get messages like text messages?
Yes.
And emails?
Yes.
Internet searches?
Yes.
And all different things that would be on your phone?
If those data transactions exist on the phone, you will typically get those.
Okay. So this software allows you to pare that down to what you want?
Yes.
In the instant case where you asked to do extractions on two phones?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you what's been previously entered into evidence as States Exhibit 11 and 12. You can take a look at both of those. Can you tell me what those are?
These are the two cell phones that I had done examinations on, one of them belonging to Doug Benefield, the other one belonging to Ashley Benefield.
And is that the evidence tag that's on there, do you recognize that?
Yes.
And does it have your information on it?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So did you go through the process that you just explained with both of these phones?
There were differences in the process, but ultimately we were able to get a path to data and produce a report for that data.
Okay. And which one were you able to extract first?
Doug's phone we were able to extract first.
Okay. And then were you able to extract data from Ashley's phone?
We were able to eventually. It did take quite some time.
Okay. Why did it take quite some time?
That phone, it was passcoded, or it had a PIN code. I want to say it was a 6-digit PIN code, and the software, it took a long time to actually bypass that encryption or that PIN.
Okay. So if you don't have the passcode or a way to get into the phone, your system can do that?
Yes, it varies in length of how long it could take to bypass, but yes, the system allows for that.
Okay. And you called one of those Doug's phone and one of those Ashley's phone. When you do extractions of the data, do you get information about identifying who owns the phone?
Yes.
And can you just explain what that is?
A lot of the times, especially with iPhones, you'll have an Apple ID that could be associated with the person that owns the phone. In the contact information, it'll have the owner's information, so it's pretty easily identify who that phone belongs to, especially with iPhones.
Okay. And the one phone, I'm not sure if it's 11 or 12, that you said was Doug's phone?
12.
12. Did that have identifying information?
Yes.
Okay. That identified it as Doug's phone?
Correct.
And then for Ashley's phone, same question?
Yes.
Okay. Did you prepare a spreadsheet for this case?
I did.
And what is on the spreadsheet?
It was communication between Ashley and Doug extracted from Ashley's phone from September 20th of 2020 until September 27th of 2020.
Okay. And when you say communication, what do you mean?
In that particular report, it was mainly text messaging back and forth. There were a few phone calls and I want to say at least one email, but mostly text messages.
Okay. And you said you prepared the spreadsheet from Ashley's phone. Did you also look at the information from Doug's phone to compare that information was on his phone as well?
Yes.
Okay. And was it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 98. You can tell me if you recognize that.
I do.
And what is it?
This is the CD containing the Excel spreadsheet that we just talked about.
Okay. And when you said there's communications between the two, if there were any attachments to those communications, would they also be in your spreadsheet?
Yes, they would. Yes.
Okay. And you looked at this
Yes.
disk, and is it accurate based on the spreadsheet that you created?
Yes.
State we enter into evidence States 98.
Any objection to States Exhibit 98?
No.
Received.
So I'm going to publish the spreadsheet now. If we could turn down the lights and potentially, it's a little difficult to read, potentially shut the blinds. Okay, so I know this is very small, at least from where I'm sitting. I don't know if I have handed you an exact copy, a hard copy, so I don't know what is easier for you to read. I know that print is very small as well.
Sorry, Mrs. Dunn. Can you approach for just a minute?
Sure. Are you going to read from the one in front of you or the one behind you?
I'm going to attempt to read the one in front.
Okay, because I can try and make this a little bigger once we get through what we're looking at. So I have a laser pointer for you. So the red button is yours. And I have one as well. I do want to talk a little bit about these attachments that are on the phone or on the spreadsheet. Are you able to tell when you look at one of these attachments where that image or picture or video came from?
It depends on each attachment. There could be metadata there that the attachment could have been from a screenshot. It could have been from the actual phone, taken with the actual phone. So just, again, case-by-case basis.
Okay, so there is a video on this phone that, and I just want to draw your attention to it, that shows some people at a restaurant. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
No.
Let me, hold on one moment and I'll let you know which one it is. It's line number 25 on your spreadsheet. Can you tell from what you're looking at where that video came from? Or do you recall from your investigation before where that video came from?
Based on what I'm looking at, it's an attachment from a text message from Doug Benefield to Ms. Benefield.
Okay. And when you looked at Doug Benefield's phone, could you tell whether this movie was taken on his phone or sent to his phone?
I don't have a recollection of the actual metadata of the video itself
Okay.
on either phone. This is just looking at it from the attachment perspective, not the specific video itself.
Okay, if we could approach Judge. Okay, so let me hook this back up. And let's talk about what we're looking at first, and then I can try and make this a little bigger so people can see it. All right, so the first column just has the number of the entry, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the second column is what?
It's just the type of entry it is.
And give me a couple of examples of the type of entry that it is into the phone.
In this timeline, it's labeled as an instant message. If it was a phone call, you would see phone call. If it was an email, you would see email.
Okay, and what does instant message mean? Is that a text?
It's a text.
Okay. And then the third column is what?
It's the direction of that transaction. It's specifically dealing with messages, whether it's incoming or outgoing.
Okay, so that would be incoming or outgoing from Ashley Benefield's phone?
Correct.
All right, and then the next column?
It's whether or not that data transaction has an attachment.
Okay, and then the next column?
It's the date.
And the next?
It says time, but it also has the date and the time in the correct time code and time zone.
Okay, you said correct time zone. Can you explain that real quick?
So if you see UTC -4, UTC is what's considered standard time for world clocks. The time where the prime meridian is in the world, you subtract from that and you come up with the time code or the time zone that you're in. We are currently in -4. We're technically -5, but because daylight savings times, we actually subtract -4.
Okay, so does your software do that automatically?
Yes.
Okay, so when it says, at the first line, it says 8:20.02, and that says UTC -4, that is the current Florida Bradenton time?
Correct.
Okay, and then the next column. And I made it bigger on the screen if it's easier for you to see.
I can see it
Okay.
fine here. The party is the people that are a part of the actual message.
Okay, and are these the labels, the names that are entered into Ashley Benefield's phone?
Correct.
Okay. And the next column?
The description, well, in this case, the first one is blank, but ultimately it will have the body of a text message. Sometimes it'll be empty depending on the nature of it, but that's where the body of the text messages would be.
Okay, so the next column?
The source is just the software's way of saying if it was a native message or if it was taken with a third-party application.
Okay, and the next column?
The attachment is the actual file itself and the file name.
And then the last column?
The source file information has a lot of metadata where that file actually exists and the file paths and size. And if you look at the table, all this information comes from databases and it explains where or what table the database that this message or this data lies.
Okay, so let me move it back over. So after we get through this explanation, we'll move much faster, but the first message is what? If you could just explain to us what that is.
Item number 1 is listed as a message. It's an incoming message with an attachment, and it appears there's no body to it. In other words, there's no actually text string. It's just the actual attachment itself.
And who is it from and who is it to?
It's from Doug to, I'm just going to say the name that's on the actual.
That's fine.
It says Ashley Christina.
Okay. And is this the attachment?
Yes.
Okay, and if you could just read for the record what that says?
It says, am I now trying to win the favor and approval of men or of God? Or am I seeking to please someone? If I were still trying to be popular with men, I would not be a bondservant of Christ.
Okay. And then the next message is what?
Number 2 appears to be an outgoing message. It's from Ashley Christina to Doug Benefield.
Okay, and how much later than the first message is that?
About 2 hours, it appears.
Okay, and so from Ashley to Doug, and what is it?
The description says loved an image.
Okay, so she loved the image from before.
That's more of an action than actual writing something out.
Okay, she didn't type loved image.
No.
The phone is saying that she hit some button.
Correct.
To love the image, all right. And then the next message is from right about the same time, and that says what?
Same time, that says good morning. There's another little icon after it, but it just didn't come out on here.
Okay. And then if you could just continue to read.
The next message, number
Right,
4?
the next
Okay.
message. If you can just say what time,
Okay.
who, to and from, and what the message is.
So the next message, sent around the same time, 10:36 a.m. It's from Doug to Ashley Christina. It says good morning with a few emojis. Then the next message after that, there's appears to be an attachment, and that's at 11:43 from Doug to Ashley Christina.
And what is the message right after that? Oh, I just went too far. Right after the attachment, I'm sorry.
Right after the attachment?
Yes.
It would be number 6. It's a message at 9:20, 11:43 from Doug to Ashley, and it says run baby run with a few emojis.
Okay. And so now I'll just play the attachment. Okay, so Doug says run baby run to Ashley, and then what does she do?
That would be number 7. It's a instant message right after. It's at 12:16, and it just says laughed at a movie.
Okay. And if you can just keep reading.
Number 8 would be an outgoing message. It's from Ashley to Doug. It's on the same date at 12:16 p.m. It's just a few emojis. They appear to be laughing emojis.
And you don't have to mention the times right now until it switches a large
Okay.
time span, so go ahead.
The next would be an incoming message from Doug to Ashley asking ready to rock and roll. The next is from Ashley to Doug. Give me a few LOL. Trying to round up the cats. It's like trying to teach a ballet to squirrels. The next is an incoming message from Doug to Ashley. Says ha with exclamation points. The next is
And we've established that it's all either from Doug to Ashley or Ashley to Doug.
Correct.
So if you can just say who's speaking and then the message from this point.
number 12 from Doug. He says that's funny. After that, it's from Doug. It says he's liked. Give me a few. It's basically liking a previous text message, and it just repeats.
Okay.
The next is an outgoing from Ashley. It says, OMG, I'm exhausted, LOL. The next is also from Ashley. You can come over now.
Now, I didn't ask you about the color coding on this, but what do the colors mean?
It was just to make it easier to read which one was outgoing, and on all the outgoings, which is Ashley's phone, are Ashley's phone, and the incoming is the other color.
And so the outgoings are what color?
The outgoings are the blue-gray.
Okay. Or
I'm sorry, blue-gray. The outgoing is the orange.
the orange. Okay. So if Ashley's speaking, it's orange. If Doug's speaking, it's gray.
Correct.
Okay. So I believe we ended at OMG, I'm exhausted, LOL. Go ahead.
I believe I had stated the outgoing message. You can come over now. Number 16 from Doug. Hot. Need to video the rodeo. Okay, headed that way. From Ashley, she responds. She liked what he had said earlier and just repeats. Incoming from Doug. I'm walking around to back. The response. I could let you in the front, or which, and then adds to that whichever. He responds. Okay, front good. She responds with a thumbs up. He responds, me and XS boxes arrived. She responds, LOL. He responds with a message that includes an attachment without a body. Then there's a call log, which is number 26. It's an outgoing call log to Doug for, I believe, 11 seconds.
Okay. And then let me scroll down on here. After the phone call, what happens? Oh, let me back up just a second. What time was that phone call?
Same date, 9/27/24 in the evening.
And then at 8:58 in the evening, that next entry, what is it?
It is a message from Doug. It says, good night, sweetie, theta waves, with a couple emojis. I'll be done by 1 tomorrow and plan on joining the party. And then there's an outgoing and then again, another action of just loving that, that previous text message. And then there was a response at 9:23 that says, good night, with a couple emojis. You sure you want to come hang out with the slum, ? And 9:23, he responds, yep, be smeshin' at the slummin'. 9:24, there was again an action of laughed at the previous message.
Okay, so that was at 9:24 PM, and it looks like the next entry is at 7:36 AM, correct? And what is that?
That is, believed to be an attachment without a body. It's a long string of characters, JPEG image.
And that came from Doug or to Doug?
That was from Doug.
And I'm going to display the attachment. You don't have to read all of this, but what is this?
Just another Bible verse.
So after the Bible verse, what is the next thing that happens?
She appears that she loves the image and then responds with good morning. He responds back with good morning with several emojis, and hours later responds with or says headed that way in about 30 minutes.
So that's approximately 3 hours later. He says headed that way in about 30 minutes.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
There's a response from Ashley that says, oh, hey, while you done for the day? Don't rush because of us. We're out for a walk now. Not in a rush to get started today, LOL. We'll have to round up the cats when we get home anyway. There's a response from Doug, oh, nice, a little breezy, which helps. Getting early start so can finish up early to come over and be with y'all and play W. Emerson, typically shorthand for with Emerson. Free y'all up some. Just ping when good to head over. And Ashley responds with a like of that previous message. And then responds with will do, and also adds in a new text message, want to grab a can opener at Publix on your way over, ? LOL. I of course packed the one we had. He responds, ha, too funny, yep, we'll get one. She responds, thank you, trying to get the cats, LOL. And after that, there's an incoming message, appears to be an attachment as well. And that was it.
Go ahead. Some of these attachments don't open on this computer. Can you explain kind of why that is?
I think that one of the previous videos that you had, sometimes it's a codec issue. The files are actually not necessarily embedded in the actual spreadsheet itself, but I can take this same file and bring it over to another computer, and it might open. It just depends. It depends on the computer how it's set up to open that particular file.
Okay. So after the attachment, I'm trying to slide this back over. Let's see. Let me try to open this. Okay, so this is one that will not open. So I slid it back over. If you could tell us, again, starting at 46, I believe it is?
Well, after that attachment, it's 45.
Or 45, sorry.
And it's an incoming, says from Doug, in the crazy loop at Gay, G-A-Y-E. And it's probably a misspelling because he corrected himself and put gate in the next message. There is a call log that has 0 seconds to it at 3:17, and then an incoming message walking around back, and then
So the walking around back is approximately what time?
3 o'clock in the afternoon, or
And then
3:21.
The next message is approximately what time?
9 o'clock at night.
And that message is?
Good night. And she responds at 9:22 with good night and looks like a sleeping emoji.
And the next communication?
The next would be an incoming message from Doug to Ashley, appears to be an attachment, some type of JPEG image.
And you don't have to read this, but what is it?
Another Bible verse. I believe we're on, after that attachment, we're on 52.
Yes.
It is incoming message from Doug, says good morning with some emojis, hope you slept okay. She responded at 9:28, loved the image, or loved an image, and also an additional good morning. Doug then emphasized the good morning, just another action that he took on a previous message, and the next communication was at 11 o'clock a.m. with a wave emoji, looks like. At 11:22, he responds again with how's morning. She responds with also a wave emoji at 11:26, then says, good, but scrambled to get all the loose ends tied up, LOL. He responds, no kidding, I'm done. Around 1, we'll head that way. Been going since like 3 a.m., LOL. She responds, OMG, 3, why is that? He responds, just to get work done so can pack. Love mornings, all quiet. She responds, okay then. He responds, Spark is best friend, LOL. She laughed, another action for that message. And another response from Doug, finished up here, yay, headed that way.
And what time was that?
That was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1:17.
And then after that?
At 1:19, she says, oh, take your time, no rush in, not in a rush today. And at 1:20, a response, LOL, with an emoji, think we all are getting pooped from the efforts. She responds with liked a previous message and it just repeats. There's also a laughed at LOL, again, laughing at a previous message. Then another message at 1:36 says, can you think of anything we need at Lowe's or anywhere? Then there's actual call log at 1:42 that lasts about 49 seconds. And that was from Doug too, actually. And then at 3:30, there's a message from Doug, headed that way in a few minutes. I'd nothing need. And a message from Ashley, alrighty, we are just out for a walk, still can't think of anything needed at the moment. There's an action liked already, and the message repeats from a previous message. Doing front gate, I'm assuming circle, but CIRCL, and a call log from Doug to Ashley with 0 seconds. Incoming from Doug, I'm here, and it looks like another call log for about 20 seconds.
And that's about, I'm sorry to interrupt, that's about what time?
That was at 3:56 in the afternoon.
Okay. And the next message is at about what time?
9:26 p.m. It's a message from Ashley Christina to Doug. It says goodnight with an emoji. And then after that, Doug responds, "Good night, precious girls." And after that, Ashley, again, an action of loving that previous response. And the next several messages appear to be related to attachments.
Okay. So the next attachment I'll put up. Who were these attachments sent from?
These were from Doug to Ashley Christina.
And then in the middle of this, so it would be, I'm not getting the lines correctly, I think it's line 87 maybe, at 9:29:35.
9:29:35 is line 86,
Okay.
and that's another action of loving an image.
Okay. And there's one more attachment, I believe. Possibly one more after that. Two. So all of these attachments were sent from Doug's phone to Ashley's phone?
Correct.
Okay. And then there's a series of responses from Ashley. Can you tell me what those are?
It's the previous action that we've referenced where she physically takes an, it's not word that she's typing, it's just physically within the operating system of iOS, it allows you to take an action on an image. In this case, she loved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
6 images.
Okay. Let me get it back centered again. So after she loved the images, there's an entry where she types a message. What is that?
That's at 9:31 at night. She responds, "All these are sweet, thank you." And he responds with an action that he loved the previous message, and then responds with y'all rock my world with a heart emoji. And she responds again with an action of loving that previous message, and with, it's a very small emoji, hard to tell what it is after the action.
And then what's the next entry?
The next is an instant, is a message with an attachment, and that's from Doug to Ashley at 6:47 in the morning.
And I'm going to pull up the attachment. And again, what is that?
Appears to be another Bible verse.
And if you can continue.
So after, there's a message from Doug, says good morning with emojis, and then also an additional message at 9:28 that says, got an email from Stephanie after she talked to Faith. Since order to mediate will meet for 1 hour tomorrow to stop court next week. You dismissed injunction. We sign joint stipulation to dismiss dissolutions and hold until Moreland signs. Order for report. As soon as she signs order, we file dismissal, and we're done. Looks like praying hands emoji and a heart. And then there's an additional message after that. And we have joint session with Dr. Q Friday to wrap up our adventure in Florida, FL, and leave with understanding of double knots and red-blue inversion. After that, there's an action by Ashley Christina that said love an image. And it continues with a good morning. And there's an emphasis by Doug of good morning. Ashley Christina responds, oh, okay, I'll reach out to Faith to follow up on all the above with a thumbs up. Doug takes an action and liking that previous image, and then says, and we're done. Again, praying hands emoji, and also responds, and all in first 10 days of Jewish New Year, LOL. It continues with an action of laughed at the previous message, and then at 9:57, Doug responds, you gotta laugh, September 18th was first date of Jewish New Year, 3 years to date of your Odyssey starting day of ballet launch, Rosh Hashanah, the first of the Jewish days of awe. We can call our Odyssey the days of all, LOL. At 10:13, there's an incoming message, says from Doug, so perfect outside, looks like a sun emoji. Ashley responds with an action for those previous messages, which just repeats, and then writes, oh yay, we should do Selby today. He responds, oh yes, with multiple M's and yum. She responds with a few emojis. He emphasized the emojis, and then adds, Stephanie just sent Faith joint dismissal of everything except injunction, which Faith has to do, just one pager. and also responds, what time thinking, Selby? Ashley Christina responds with the action of liking it, and then says, maybe 1:30ish, I'll text you when we're headed that way with a thumbs up. He responds, or Doug responds, okay, I can come pick you up too. Then adds more time with my baby. Then adds mediation tomorrow by Zoom 10:30 and be quick. Ashley responds with the action of liking that. Then added, sorry, just looking at my phone. You don't need to drive all the back to LWR to get us if you are already downtown. But if you want to, that's fine. Just let me know either way. Doug responds, I'm at apartment. Adds so pretty, enjoying pool area, finally to work, LOL. The next message is an attachment with no body.
From Doug,
That is from Doug to Ashley Christina.
and I'll pull up the attachment. I don't know why I just closed that. Let me open it again. And what number were we on?
132, that was the attachment.
Thank you. Okay. So after the attachment, what's the next communication?
It's a message from Doug to Ashley Christina. I'll just head your way at 1:30. Ashley Christina responds, ha, nice, okay, just getting our things together now. Maybe head over in like 10 minutes, 10 MIM. Doug responds, okay. And then after that appears to be an email from Doug to Ashley.
Okay. And after that?
After that is incoming message from Doug. Do you want to get together tonight or in the morning before mediation and unify the instructions for Faith and Stephanie? Think we are going to need to keep involved until this is done or will drag out. She responds, ha, okay.